Chapter 31. Physique. You will not be able to achieve anything by doing the same thing, the old man said. I raised my eyebrows, my irritation flaring. Why not? Instead of answering directly, the old man posed a different question. You were unable to gather mana into your core, weren't you? Even though you are the son of a viscount, and your family was given a unique grade mana accumulation art, you couldn't gather any type of mana, could you? I froze, his words cutting deeper than any blade. How did he know about my struggles with mana? My failure to live up to my family's legacy was a wound I kept hidden, a source of shame and frustration. I clenched my fists around the spear, my voice a low growl. How do you know about that? The old man's gaze was steady, unyielding. I have seen many in my time, boy. I can recognize the signs of someone who has faced the same struggle. You carry it in your posture, in the way you push yourself beyond your limits, hoping to overcome a hurdle that seems insurmountable. I looked away, the weight of his words pressing down on me. What does it matter? I've trained harder than anyone, but nothing changes. It matters because you're trying to fight a battle you can't win by normal means, he replied softly. I could not understand. What did he mean by normal means? What was that supposed to mean? It is not like there is any other thing in this world. The old man looked at the weapon in my hands, his gaze lingering on the long spear. Spear is not a weapon for you to use, he said, his voice calm but firm. I narrowed my eyes, a surge of frustration bubbling up. What does that mean? The old man looked into my eyes, his expression unwavering. Your body is not suited to use a spear. I narrowed my eyes, frustration bubbling up inside me. What does that mean? Instead of answering directly, the old man posed another question. Have you ever felt like there are certain movements that you can do better than others? I frowned, his words stirring memories from my past. I thought back to the times when my body seemed to flow more naturally when I instinctively moved in ways that felt right. During those moments, I developed a peculiar style of wielding the spear, incorporating fluid and unpredictable movements. It was weird, and others commented on it a lot of times. Many times they said that I was fighting a lot differently compared to them. Yes, I replied after a moment, nodding slowly. There have been times when I felt like I could move better, more naturally. The old man nodded, his eyes reflecting a knowing look. Of course, that is the case. Because your body was reacting to the specific types of movements, and you subconsciously noticed that while moving as well. I looked at him, my curiosity piqued. So what if that's the case? Which weapon is my body suited for then? The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling with a hint of amusement. Ah, that is a question only you can answer. Think about it. For which movements do you feel the most comfortable when doing them? I closed my eyes, searching my memories. I tried to recall the times when I felt most at ease, most in sync with my body. Moments during training when everything seemed to click, and my movements were smooth and effortless. As I delved deeper into my thoughts, a picture began to form in my mind. I saw myself moving fluidly, my body shifting seamlessly from one stance to another. My hands and arms moved with grace, executing precise and controlled motions. I imagined myself in the middle of a fight, my body twisting and turning with agility. My strikes were swift and accurate, each movement calculated and intentional. The image in my mind was clear, and without realizing it, I began to move, mimicking the motions I envisioned. The old man watched me with a knowing smile, his eyes following my movements. He said nothing, allowing me to immerse myself in the exercise. As I continued, I felt a sense of familiarity wash over me. These movements felt natural, almost instinctual. My body seemed to remember each step, each strike as if it had been doing this all along. I stopped and opened my eyes, breathing heavily. I felt it, I said, a note of wonder in my voice. I could see the movements in my mind, and my body just followed. Even if my hands held a spear, my body did not move according to it. A spear was a weapon that focused mainly on stabbing, designed for long reach and powerful thrusts. The essence of the spear was in its directness, its ability to keep an opponent at a distance and strike with precision. My movements, however, were different. They were fluid, adaptive, and close range. The spear felt like an extension of myself, but it did not align with the natural flow of my body. My strikes were not just about reaching out and piercing through. They involved intricate maneuvers, swift changes in direction, and a blend of offense and defense that seemed more suited to a weapon requiring agility and finesse. I looked at the old man, seeking confirmation. The spear's essence is in its stabbing, its reach. But my movements, they aren't just about thrusting forward. They are about flowing, adapting, and moving with precision and grace. The old man nodded, his eyes twinkling with approval. Exactly. The spear, while powerful and noble, does not align with your natural way of fighting. Your movements are more suited to a weapon that allows for close combat, agility, and precision. I considered his words, the image of my fluid movements still fresh in my mind. But what weapon is that? What fits with these movements? The old man smiled enigmatically. Think about the weapons that require such fluidity and precision. Which weapon allows for both offense and defense and thrives on the user's ability to adapt and react swiftly? I closed my eyes again, picturing the movements. I imagined a weapon that complemented my style, one that allowed for quick, decisive strikes and seamless transitions. My body twisted and turned, blocking and attacking with equal finesse. A dagger felt closer to what the old man was hinting at, but even that didn't seem to capture the full scope of my movements. It felt like there was something more, something that required both hands to truly express the fluidity and precision I envisioned. Slowly, an image began to form in my mind. A weapon that was balanced, capable of both offense and defense, allowing for swift, controlled strikes and fluid movements. The weapon was not overly long like a spear but not as short as a dagger. It was something that did not demand both hands to be wielded effectively as a spear, yet at the same time something that allowed for a dance of attacks and parries. A sword. Not short, not long. A simple, basic sword. I opened my eyes, a realization dawning upon me. The old man watched me intently, waiting for me to speak. A sword, I said slowly, testing the word. Indeed. The old man's smile widened, and he nodded approvingly. Your movements, your instincts, they align with the essence of the sword. I frowned, still not fully understanding. But why? Why is my body suited for a sword and not anything else? The old man pointed towards my body, specifically to my dantian. It's because of the same reason you cannot accumulate any mana into your core. His words hung in the air, and I felt a surge of impatience. I looked at him, waiting for him to speak, but he did not say anything. This old man. It was so frustrating, to the extent that I wanted to punch him in the face. Well, that may have been an exaggeration, but I was angry, at least. Thus, I decided to speak. What do you mean? Why can't I accumulate mana? What does this have to do with my weapon? The old man smiled at my frustration, clearly anticipating my reaction. He paused, letting the silence stretch before finally speaking. It is because of your unique body constitution. He spoke, raising his fingers. From the tip of it, something appeared. A bunch of characters formed by mana. You have what is known as the physique of the requivers. I blinked, confusion flooding my mind. The physique of the requivers? What does that mean? I've never heard of it before. Even in the novel, there was no such thing. Though it was not like the novel was focused on these physiques. While being a revenge story, Shattered Innocence's main focus was romance fantasy, after all. The old man's smile widened, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. It's because all those who had this physique died. Chapter 32. Physique 2. It's because all those who had this physique died. The moment I heard this, I could not help but let my eyes widen as the shock and disbelief washed over me. They all died. I echoed, my voice barely more than a whisper. What are you talking about? How could a physique like that cause people to die? What kind of bullshit that this old man was talking about? How could someone just die just because they have a physique? That was the first time I heard of such a thing. In the first place, what was a physique anyway? I have heard that father mentioning this before, saying only the rarest people would be born with a physique and they would be talented under the heavens, but the details were not there. So how? The old man's expression remained somber, his gaze unwavering. The physique of the Requivers is extremely rare. Those who possess it have bodies that react differently to mana. Instead of absorbing and accumulating mana like others, their bodies repulse it. Repulse it? I shook my head, still trying to process what he was saying. That doesn't make any sense. Why would my body repulse mana? It is a unique condition, the old man explained, his tone patient. Your body cannot contain mana in the traditional sense. Instead, it uses mana in an entirely different way, one that most people do not understand and cannot control. I frowned, frustration bubbling up inside me. If this physique is so rare, then how do you know about it? Why should I believe any of this? The old man's eyes sparkled with a hint of mischief. Why would I lie to you, boy? What would I gain from it? I have no reason to deceive you. In fact, understanding your condition could be the key to unlocking your true potential. I narrowed my eyes, suspicion lingering. How do I know you're not just making this up? This could all be some elaborate trick. He chuckled softly, shaking his head. You have a right to be skeptical. But think about it. Have you ever met anyone else who struggled as you have with mana accumulation? Have you ever heard of another Viscount's son, who couldn't gather even a drop of mana despite rigorous training? I hesitated, his words striking a chord. It was true. I had always felt isolated in my struggle, and my inability to gather mana was a source of shame and frustration. No one else seemed to have the same issue, and I had always wondered why. It was the same for my brother and for my sister. They were both able to master the family's mana accumulation art, Serpent Flame Spear, yet that was not the case for me. Even for a common grade mana accumulation art, I was not able to gather any mana around my core at all. Then what am I supposed to do? What should I do so that my physique can be effectively utilized? The old man's expression softened as he looked at me. Why do you think all those who had this physique died and were never able to live? I repeated what he had just said. Because their bodies react differently to mana. The old man nodded. Yes, but why is that the case? I struggled to find an answer, my mind racing. Maybe the body is inherently different? The old man smiled approvingly. It is something like that. The meridians through which mana flows in the body are all reversed for this body type. I blinked, trying to comprehend what he was saying. Reversed meridians? What does that mean? It means that the pathways through which mana should flow are opposite to the norm, the old man explained. In a normal body, mana flows through the meridians in a specific direction, nourishing the body and allowing for accumulation in the dantian. But in your case, the flow is reversed, repulsing the mana instead of absorbing it. So, what can I do about it? I asked, feeling a mix of hope and fear. You must adapt to your unique constitution, the old man said. Your training must focus on harmonizing with the reversed flow of your meridians. The reversed flow of my meridians? But just how? I have never felt what the meridians are like. So, how can I harmonize myself with the flow of my meridians? The moment I asked this, the old man smiled. There is only one way. You are going to become my disciple. For old people, what is the goal of life? Or is there even a goal? Some just wanted to die after seeing their grandchildren. Some wanted to die after their spouse. But none of them would matter at the end of the day when the inevitable came. Being old, the old man kept thinking about all this. He had seen his fair share of the world, yet even he had not expected to find himself here, in this forsaken place, where life seemed to be perpetually on the edge of a blade. At the very least, he thought that he would get a comfortable place. This was supposed to be his final resting ground, a place to live out his remaining years in relative peace. He had hoped for tranquility, a chance to lay back and reminisce about the days gone by, away from the chaos of the battlefield. Yet that did not seem to be the case, as he somehow ended up right here once again. Even after all that time, he was still in that damned place. Once again, this life, however, never once in his life had he thought he would find something like this in this place. Here, in this remote corner of the world, he had found something unexpected. A boy struggling against the very essence of his being, fighting a battle that seemed insurmountable. The boy's determination and frustration had struck a chord within the old man, reminding him of his younger self, full of fire and defiance. That boy had something that many people who were sent here would have lost: a good heart, not being able to ignore the misfortune that would befall other people. When those two young people were trying to exert his ratios and trying to forcefully take them, even if he was weaker, he did not stop. Even if everyone in the whole camp went against him, even the captain of the camp, that young kid did not stop. There was a fire that was burning in his eyes. The time they spent talking, the moments when he was recounting his old stories, they were strangely fun for the old man. At the end of the day, slowly but strangely, the old man became fond of the young kid. Somehow, the kid's gentle and innocent heart was a fresh sight to see. Yet, on the other hand, he also couldn't help but worry. In this place where death would become common, could such a child survive? The old man's thoughts were interrupted by a sound. He turned and saw the young kid standing in the night, holding a spear. But something was different. The answer to his question was there, painfully clear. The child was dead, no longer alive in spirit. The body stood, but the light in the eyes was gone. What remained were the eyes of a forcefully grown up, a person who had experienced the dark side of the world a second time. The eyes now held vengeance and hatred, but there was something else: desperation. The movements that the boy was doing, each desperate to hold the pain inside. Yet there was something else, something that piqued the old man's interest. The way the boy moved, the way his body seemed to resist and yet flow with the spear's weight, hinted at a deeper truth. The old man's eyes narrowed as he focused on the boy's stance, his breathing, and the subtle shifts in his posture. He had seen many fighters in his time, each with their unique styles and strengths, but this boy was different. Reverse meridians, the old man murmured to himself, the realization dawning upon him. When they had talked with the young man before, he had learned that he was the son of a Viscount family named Thorne. The young boy described his family as a family that had fought the war under the emperor and a family that guarded the border of the empire. He had never heard of this family before, meaning it was not that famous around the world, but he was aware of how the noble society worked. Normally, such kids tend to be nurtured at a young age, learning about their family's arts, and they would become successful almost all the time, as they shared the bloodline of their ancestors. But the boy was not like that. He was unsuccessful. And the old man could now see the reason why. The boy had a unique condition, the physique of Requivers, the physique of the stars, a special body constitution that he had only read once in an archive and had never seen in real life. Thus, that part was a lie when he said that. However, aside from that, everything else was true. The fact that everyone who had this constitution died. Of course, that was something that everyone in this world would always experience, so he hid something. He hid the fact that those with this physique would not live past 25, and it was recorded in the book. And he hid one another thing: the fact that such a physique could only be attained if the parents also had it. And both the boy's parents were past the age of 40. Chapter 33, Master. The old man gazed at me with an intense seriousness in his eyes. You have a unique body constitution, boy, one that requires special training. You must adapt to your unique condition and train in a way that harmonizes with the reversed flow of your meridians. I furrowed my brow, trying to grasp his meaning. But how? How can I train in such a way if I've never felt my meridians before? How can I harmonize myself with something I can't even perceive? A knowing smile crept across the old man's face. There is only one way. You must become my disciple. His words hung in the air, and for a moment, I simply stared at him, trying to process the offer. Then my frustration boiled over. How can I become the disciple of a beggar? I snapped, my tone harsher than I intended. The old man's eyes narrowed, irritation flaring up. A beggar, am I? He retorted. Is there any beggar who knows so much about mana, physiques, and meridians as I do? I shrugged, unable to hide it. I wouldn't know. The only beggar I know is you. For a moment, the old man looked as if he might strike me, But then he laughed. A deep, hearty sound that echoed in the night air. Well, perhaps you have a point, but appearances can be deceiving. I may look like a beggar, but I assure you, I am far more than that. I looked at him skeptically, still unsure whether to trust him. But something in his eyes told me he was speaking the truth. This old man, he was like the mysterious ancestors who somehow wandered around the world and came across the protagonist. Then, does this make me the protagonist of the story? It was such a laughable thought. Who would want to read such a pathetic protagonist anyway? If I agree, what will you teach me? How can you help me with this physique of the requivers? The old man's gaze softened. I will teach you how to harness your unique constitution. You will learn to flow with the reversed meridians to draw upon your true potential. But it will not be easy. You must be willing to endure pain and hardship beyond anything you've ever known. Swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. And if I don't? He sighed, a touch of sadness in his eyes. Then you will continue to struggle, unable to gather mana, unable to live up to your potential. You will never become the warrior you were meant to be, and you will never achieve anything in your life. You will be forgotten, just like the ones that you want to avenge, just like the ones that you are trying to avenge. I clenched my fists, feeling the frustration and anger boil within me once more at these words. Indeed, that was the case. This was something I was already aware of. I had trained so hard and pushed myself to the brink, only to be held back by something beyond my control. If this old man, beggar or not, could help me overcome that, I had to take the chance. All right, I said finally, my voice steady. I'll become your disciple. Not that I have much choice, but there was something that had been plaguing my mind for a while now. You have talked about my physique. You said I have this unique condition, but you never mentioned anything related to the sword. Why did you tell me my body was suited for a sword? The old man's eyes gleamed with a mixture of amusement and wisdom. Ah, you caught that, did you? He said while looking at my eyes. The thing is, I myself don't know the answer as well. What? You don't know the answer? I asked, feeling a mix of confusion and frustration. He nodded, his expression thoughtful. The reason why you are suited for the sword is not actually because of your body. It is because of something innate to you. It's as if you have been limiting yourself because of something in your mind. I furrowed my brow, trying to grasp what he was saying. Something in my mind? What do you mean? The old man took a deep breath, his eyes reflecting a deep well of experience. I suspect it is related to your psyche. Your struggles with mana, your inability to gather it, and your discomfort with the spear, all of these point to something deeper. It's as if there's a mental block, a labyrinth of barriers that shapes the direction that your body is going to take. I looked at the old man, his words resonating within me. As I pondered his explanation, memories of my training and struggles surfaced. Despite my efforts with the spear, it never felt right. Yet, when I imagined myself wielding a sword, the movements came naturally, almost instinctively. As I reflected, I began to see the truth in the old man's words. My mind had always conjured images of fluid, precise sword movements with ease. It was as if my body knew the sword, even though I had never trained with it. The spear, by contrast, felt foreign, its rigid thrusts and stabs at odds with my natural inclinations. Just as he had said, my way of thinking seemed more suited to the sword. I could visualize the strikes, parries, and fluid transitions with clarity. My body seemed to understand the language of the sword, responding to its rhythm and flow. You're right, I said slowly, still piecing together my thoughts. When I think about fighting, about moving in battle, the sword just fits. I can see the movements in my mind, understand them in a way I never could with the spear. The old man nodded, his eyes gleaming with approval. Precisely. Though I have no explanation for this. I see. I nodded, understanding what he was saying. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of determination and newfound clarity. Then I will embrace it. I will learn the sword and let it guide me. Whatever it takes to overcome these barriers, I'll do it. Good, the old man said and then gestured to me. Now sit down. We are going to start. Now? Now? I hesitated for a moment, then nodded and settled myself on the ground. The old man moved to sit directly across from me, taking the lotus position. I mimicked his posture, crossing my legs and placing my hands on my knees. "What should I call you, master?" I asked, unsure if it was appropriate to continue calling him the old man. "Just call me master," he replied with a faint smile. "Just as I said before, names are not important. What matters is your training and overcoming the barriers within you." I nodded, accepting his words. Master's presence was calming, and despite his initial gruff demeanor, I felt a sense of trust growing between us. "Close your eyes," Master instructed. "We will begin with a meditation to center your mind and body. This will help you attune to your unique constitution and prepare you for the training ahead." I closed my eyes, taking deep, steady breaths. Master's voice guided me through the meditation, instructing me to focus on my breathing, to clear my mind of distractions, and to visualize the flow of energy within me. "Imagine a river," he said softly. "This river is your inner energy, your mana. Visualize it flowing through your body, through the meridians. Feel its natural path and let it guide you." As I followed his instructions, I pictured a river of light coursing through me. But contrary to what he said, I was not able to visualize the light coursing through my veins at all. Rather, it was just plain empty darkness. There was nothing that I could see. Everything was dark and abnormal. Whenever I tried to make the river flow, it always felt like it was blocked by something. "A wall. Were you able to do that?" Master asked, his voice breaking the silence. I shook my head, feeling a sense of frustration. No, I couldn't make a clear flowing river. It was blocked and dark. There was nothing but emptiness. Master hummed for a second, his expression contemplative. Then, he turned to look at me with a deeper understanding. "Disciple, if you want to move forward, you need to let go of your past fears and your past failures. The experiences that are engraved into your heart, the cues you've set for yourself, that you are destined for failure, you need to get rid of them." I started to refute, my frustration bubbling up. I've always tried my best to become better. How could I be setting myself up for failure? Master raised a hand, gently silencing me. "Remember, I never showed you or instructed you to make everything with light or to visualize it flowing everywhere. That was your own assumption. You assumed the light and then felt like the darkness was your own failure. And the walls, with no mana involved, there are no such things as bottlenecks. It is all in your mind." I blinked, trying to comprehend his words. He was right. He had only asked me to visualize a river of energy, yet I had immediately imagined it as a river of light. When I couldn't see the light, I assumed it was a sign of my failure. The walls and obstacles were constructs of my own mind, manifestations of my insecurities and fears. "You mean, I created those barriers myself?" I asked, the realization dawning on me. Master nodded. "Exactly. Your mind is powerful, can create both barriers and pathways. The darkness you saw and the walls you encountered were not failures. They were your mind's way of interpreting the unknown. Without mana, without understanding the flow of energy, there are no true obstacles but the ones you imagine. And all of them stem from your own perception of yourself. And until you change this yourself, we are not going to start any internal cultivation." Chapter 34. Mind. "And until you change this yourself, we are not going to start any internal cultivation." The moment I heard this, I felt a pang of desperation. But how do I change this? How do I overcome these mental barriers? Master stood up, his expression stern. "You must find that answer yourself. Meditate on it, reflect on your past, and challenge your fears. Only then will you be ready to move forward." He began to walk away, leaving me with my thoughts. "Remember, if you try to deceive me, it will not end well for you." I swallowed hard, feeling a sudden chill. For some reason, I sensed that Master was far more dangerous than he appeared. His calm demeanor hid a depth of power and experience that I could only begin to comprehend. As he disappeared into the night, I was left alone to grapple with my thoughts. The path ahead was daunting, But I knew that if I was to unlock my true potential, I had to confront my inner demons and change my perception of myself. The next week was a grueling test of endurance and self-reflection. Each day, I spent hours meditating, trying to confront the mental barriers that had hindered me for so long. The process was slow and frustrating, but I persisted, determined to find the answers within myself. In the mornings, I would wake before dawn, sit in the cold air, and focus on my breathing, visualizing the flow of energy within me. The darkness I saw in my mind was no longer a sign of failure but a canvas waiting to be understood. I tried to see the walls and barriers for what they were, manifestations of my fears and insecurities. During the day, I trained with my new squad, though it was clear that I was an outsider. They made no effort to include me, and their distrust was palpable. The constant reminder that no one wanted to trust their back to me was a heavy burden, but I refused to let it break me. I need to get rid of these thoughts. Slowly but surely, I was starting to see the reason why those barriers existed in my head. Whether I did it intentionally or not, all those moments and events that came successively took a toll on my head. It was inevitable that I would feel lost. Feeling lost, I remembered how it felt when I was disbanded by my family. The crushing weight of rejection, the disbelief that they could cast me aside so easily. When my mother called me a disappointment, it was as if she had driven a stake through my heart. Her words echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of my perceived failures. I always reminded myself of the memories of my past, the fleeting moments of pride when my father looked at me with approval, only for those moments to be overshadowed by his disappointed gaze. Each time I failed to meet his expectations, the weight grew heavier, reinforcing the barriers within me. All those things were pulling me back. The realization hit me with startling clarity. Every harsh word, every dismissive glance, every time I felt inadequate, all of it had contributed to the walls that now stood in my way. I had been carrying the burden of my family's expectations and their subsequent disappointment for so long that it had become a part of me. The fear of failing them, of being the weak link in a lineage of warriors, had seeped into my very core. But what if I let it go? The thought was both terrifying and liberating. What if I could release the hold these memories had on me? What if I could move forward without the weight of their expectations dragging me down? I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. The darkness in my mind no longer felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like an empty canvas, ready to be painted with new experiences and realizations. You are more than their expectations, Lucavion. Slowly, I began to dismantle the walls piece by piece. That is right. Somehow I felt something. A pang of feeling. A memory surfaced in my mind. A memory of someone speaking to me. Never forget. The voice in the memory was clear, resonating with a calm wisdom. Never forget what has happened, for it is part of who you are. But do not let it weigh so heavily on you that you neglect the present and fear the future. Who was this person? I asked myself. The sound was crystal clear and something that felt like I was accustomed to. However, at the same time, the name of the person nor the face came to my mind. It was all blurry, as if a foil was covering it. As if something is blocking me. I knew there was a part of me that was different from the Lucavion. A part of me knew about the novel Shattered Innocence. Yet, at the same time, that part of me was unknown to me, as I couldn't remember anything. Neither the name, the face, or the life. Yet, at the same time, I felt a bit scared because it was unknown. Fear the future. But the quote constantly rang in my head, reminding me of the words of a philosopher that I had read in a book when I was going to middle school. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? And in no instance bypass the discriminations of reason. You've been through the elements. You've suffered much from your disposition. You must realize that by now, and not be like a child, but an adult who is no longer a child, and one who is no longer moved by the conditions he is subject to. Middle school, it was a word that did not belong to this world. Something from the other part of mine. But before I could ponder any longer, the memory faded, leaving me with a profound sense of clarity. The past had shaped me, but it did not have to define me. I could honor my experiences without being chained by them. Piece by piece, I continued to dismantle the walls. Each barrier I encountered was acknowledged and then gently set aside. The process was slow, but with every step, I felt lighter and more in control. On the battlefield, I was forced to survive on my own. The lack of coordination with my squad made every skirmish a desperate struggle for survival. I relied on my instincts and training, pushing myself to the limit. Each fight was a test, not just of my physical abilities but of my resolve to keep going despite the odds. One particularly brutal day, I found myself separated from the others, facing a group of enemies alone. My body moved on autopilot, blocking and parrying their attacks. Maybe because I felt more lightheaded compared to the time before, maybe for another reason, the flow of the fight became much more clear to me. Indeed, the first key is moving forward. Believe yourself. Each strike I landed was fueled by the determination to prove myself and take a step further every second. I could see the movements of the enemies more clearly, and even though the weapon in my hand was a spear itself, I somehow did not feel repulsed by it any longer. Rather than forcing myself to accommodate the spear, I made a small change and forced the spear to accommodate myself. However, the results were not as good as how this sounded since I was just a beginner, and my strength was not sufficient for me to effectively deal with a number of enemies. Filled with wounds, I sat on the ground, leaning against the wall at the end of the brutal fight. My body ached, each cut and bruise a reminder of the battle I had just endured. I closed my eyes, taking shallow breaths to manage the pain. As I sat there, my thoughts drifted back to my childhood, to the times when I would practice endlessly. Back then, I was afraid of something: pain, the sting of failure, the physical discomfort of training, and the fear of not living up to my family's expectations. But now, as I looked at myself, battered and bloodied, I realized how far I had come. The fear of pain that once held me back was no longer a barrier. I had faced it head-on, pushing through the agony to become stronger. All this time I had been improving, yet I had never acknowledged it. My mind flashed back to those endless hours of training, the times when I felt like giving up but didn't. The determination that kept me going back then was still with me now, driving me to survive and fight another day. "You're not the same person you were," I muttered to myself. "You've changed, Lucavion. You've moved forward." Just then, a shadow fell over me. I looked up to see a soldier standing there, extending a hand. He wasn't from my squad, but we often fought alongside each other on the battlefield, on the borders between our groups. "You did well today," he said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "Thanks to you, we were able to get over today's hurdle." And the moment I saw the hand, I felt something inside me breaking. Thud, as if a spell that was binding me broke. I felt relieved, and the river in my head started flowing down, no longer blocked. Chapter 35. Cultivation. When he saw the boy, the feeling of wanting to protect something arose deep inside the old man. What did he want? Did they want to protect the innocence of that young soul? No. He would no longer be able to do that, since that sense of innocence was far gone at this point. Then what could he do? The old man wanted one thing: to clear the path. This young was a particular one. A kid who had suffered more than many adults in this world. At the age of 14, he had experienced far more cruel things than many others. He had learned to take a life. Those innocent hands learned how to take a life at such an age. He had learned how to be alone and how to not rely on anyone. And as he was about to regain his sense of belonging, that was also taken away from him. The old man pondered. When such a thing happened, what would become of the boy? The answer was evident in the boy's demeanor and the dark shadow that seemed to loom over him. The boy, like any other person, would do one thing to escape the wound. He would try to look somewhere else. He would use another goal to patch the wound that had been created. He did it when his family abandoned him, too. He patched the pain of abandonment by setting a fragile goal of clearing his name, and he would do the same again. The old man did not like that. It was a temporary fix, one that did not address the root of the pain. Thus, he guided him. But just as he was about to guide the boy, he suddenly saw something. A slightly eerie energy inside the boy. An eerie energy that covered the boy's mana core and extended to his mind. The old man's eyes widened in realization. There was a reason why the boy was always like this, why he was blocked, and why his thoughts were always a mess. It was because of that dark energy. The old man also realized that if the energy did not go away, the boy would never be able to cultivate his energy properly. That dark force would always become a burden to him. Thus, the old man wanted to make sure that the boy would be freed from this energy. But as he tried to intervene with the energy by using his own, he was not able to do such a thing. The energy, or the spell that was engraved on the boy, was a peculiar one, as if it is directly linked to the mind of the target. The old man then realized if there was such a thing, only one solution would remain. That kid. He needs to overcome this on his own. The mental blocks. They were not solely because of the fact that the kid had put that on himself. No, it was because of an external influence. But what could be the reason? For which reason such a strong spell was put on this kid? And by who? And then the old man remembered how the kid told his story. Was it them? What an evil bunch. The old man's mind raced back to the boy's recounting of his past, the pain and betrayal etched in his words. He remembered the specifics, the abandonment by his family, the unfair accusations, and the malicious framing. This framing is far more complex and compounded than I initially thought. It runs deeper than anything I have encountered before. He realized the spell wasn't just a random curse but a calculated move, likely designed to cripple the boy's potential and trap him in a cycle of self-doubt and helplessness. Whoever had done this wanted to ensure that the boy would never rise, that he would always be shackled by his own mind. The old man's eyes narrowed as he considered the boy's tormentors. They must have feared the things that he knew, and then he sighed. To think that that place is still the same, filled with betrayal and schemes. He particularly remembered a certain day. I returned to the place where Master had instructed me to meditate. As I entered the clearing, I saw him sitting in the same spot, his eyes closed in deep meditation. I quietly approached and sat down across from him, taking the lotus position. The mental barriers that had once hindered me were now gone, replaced by a sense of clarity and focus. Master opened his eyes and watched me for a moment before speaking. "It seems you finally got rid of the thing inside your head," he said, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. I stopped my training and looked at him, a sense of accomplishment filling me. "Yes, Master. The walls are gone, and the river flows freely now." Master nodded approvingly. "Good. If you can now make the river flow freely in your mind, that means you have understood the basics of the meditation itself. It is about imagination and the mind." He leaned forward slightly, his gaze intense. "Never forget, disciple, the mind is what commands the mana that you accumulate. Your imagination shapes your perception of energy. If your mind is clouded by doubt and fear, your mana will be hindered. But if your mind is clear and focused, your mana will flow effortlessly." I nodded, absorbing his words. "So, it's not just about the physical training. It's about mental discipline as well." "Exactly," Master affirmed. "The physical and mental aspects of your training are deeply intertwined. To command mana effectively, you must master both your body and your mind. Meditation is the key to achieving this balance." He stood up, motioning for me to follow. "Come, we will now begin the next phase of your training. You have cleared the first hurdle, but many more lie ahead." I rose to my feet, my body still sore from the recent battle but filled with a renewed sense of purpose. As we walked, Master continued to speak. "Meditation will help you understand the flow of energy within your body. It will teach you to control your breathing, calm your mind, and direct your thoughts. This control is essential for manipulating mana and achieving higher levels of cultivation." We reached a quiet, secluded area in the forest, where the air was thick with the scent of pine and the sound of rustling leaves. Master turned to me, his expression serious. "Sit and close your eyes. Focus on your breathing and visualize the river of energy flowing through you. This time, imagine drawing mana from the surroundings into your body. Feel it merge with your own energy and circulate through your meridians." I did as he instructed, sitting down and closing my eyes. I took deep, steady breaths, focusing on the sensation of air entering and leaving my lungs. I visualized the river of energy within me, now flowing more freely than ever before. With each breath, I imagined drawing mana from the air around me, feeling it merge with my own energy and circulate through my body. But just like before, I still did not feel anything, as if the mana around me was not even there. Do not falter. Keep your focus straight. I nodded my head, determined to continue focusing. I kept my breathing steady and my mind clear and tried to feel the mana around me. Yet, despite my efforts, I still couldn't sense it. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my back. Master's touch was firm and grounding. Do not lose your focus, he warned. The mana accumulation method that you are going to learn starts like this. I will show you how to circulate your mana. His voice was calm and reassuring. I am going to inject a bit of my mana into your core. Pay close attention to how it moves through your body and circulates through your meridians. I nodded again, my anticipation growing. I focused on the sensation of his hand on my back, waiting for the moment he would begin. Then I felt it. A warm, tingling sensation spread from the point where his hand touched my back. The warmth flowed into my body, moving steadily towards my core. As it entered my core, I felt a strange, almost surreal sensation. It was as if a new world was overlapping with the one I had always known, and an intangible matter was pressing against my skin. The mana. I could now sense it. The warmth spread through my core, and then began to circulate through my meridians, guided by Master's steady hand. I focused intently on the path it took, feeling the flow of energy with a clarity I had never experienced before. Good, Master's voice came, filled with approval. This is the sensation you must learn to recognize and control. Feel how the mana merges with your own energy, becoming one with it. I focused on the merging energies, feeling the mana blend seamlessly with my own internal energy. The sensation was incredible, unlike anything I had ever felt. It was as if my entire being was coming alive with a newfound vitality. But as I was drawing mana into my core, suddenly, in my mind, something appeared. It was a star, and that star blinded my light. Following that, suddenly, just like what happened on the battlefield today, the dams were open wide. But this time, it was the river of memories that flowed down. Bruce. It was my name from Earth. Chapter 36. Bruce. Bruce. The moment that name appeared in my head, so did the memories. It was like a floodgate had opened, and all the details of my life rushed back with startling clarity. I was Bruce, a high schooler who loved to read web novels, the eldest child in my family, with two sisters who never ceased to test my patience and resilience. The younger one, Maria, was still sweet and innocent, always looking up at me with those big, curious eyes. But the older one, Evelyn, well, she had transformed into a sarcastic, biting version of herself ever since she hit 14. I missed the days when she was less of a pain and more of a companion. Memories of late-night reading sessions flooded back. Lying in bed with my phone, devouring chapter after chapter of my favorite web novels. Those stories were my escape, my sanctuary from the mundane routine of school and family obligations. I could still feel the thrill of reading a particularly intense scene, the way it made my heart race and my mind buzz with excitement. I remembered the mornings, waking up groggy because I'd stayed up too late reading. The tired, knowing look from my mom as she handed me breakfast, shaking her head at my bleary eyes. The hurried walks to school, earbuds in, listening to the latest episode of my favorite web novel podcast. Being the eldest came with its own set of challenges and responsibilities. I was expected to set an example and be responsible. But sometimes, I just wanted to escape into my own world, to forget about the expectations and just be Bruce. The guy who loved stories, who got lost in fictional worlds, and who found solace in the pages of a web novel. I remembered a certain moment with the elder one. Evelyn, I muttered, the memory of her smug face still fresh in my mind. She always knew how to get under my skin. You think you're so clever, don't you? What was that, dearest brother? Did you say something? Nothing. Just thinking. About what? About how things used to be, I said more to myself than to her. Before you turned into Miss Sarcasm. Evelyn's smirk faded slightly, replaced by a look of mild surprise. "I haven't changed that much," she said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. "Yeah, you have," I replied, not unkindly. "But maybe it's not all bad. Keeps things interesting, I guess." She didn't respond immediately. She just stared at me for a moment before turning back to her phone. I could tell she was thinking, maybe even reflecting on what I had said. It was one of the rare moments when we talked for an hour at home, as the atmosphere was not always great. And then, I remembered another memory. A memory with Maria, the smallest and cutest one in our family. "Brother, look, I made a drawing of our family." I glanced at the picture she held up, a colorful, childlike depiction of our family. There we were, stick figures with big smiles, holding hands. It was simple, but it tugged at something deep inside me. Despite the frustrations and the sarcasm, this was my family. These were the people who mattered most. "That's great, Maria," I said, smiling at her. "You did a wonderful job." Hey. Seeing the innocent smile on her face, I could not help but smile. It was a smile that I loved to protect. At that moment, a voice came from the side, sharp and commanding. It was the voice of a grumpy woman, our mother. "Maria, stop wasting time and get back to your studies. You still need to finish your daily homework," she ordered, her tone leaving no room for argument. Maria's face fell, and she looked like she wanted to protest. But I saw her tremble slightly, knowing that resistance was futile. She reluctantly put down her drawing and shuffled off to her room, casting one last forlorn look at me. Before I could say anything to comfort her, my mother's attention shifted to me. "Bruce, your fencing teacher is here. Don't make him wait." I sighed inwardly. There was no escape from the endless cycle of expectations and responsibilities. I knew what was expected of me, to be the best, to never falter. And fencing was just another part of that. "Yes, Mom," I replied, my voice steady. I couldn't let her see any hesitation or reluctance. Because I have already learned what is going to happen when I do that. I already knew the fact that the perfect son would never falter. The ones that would bear the brunt of the anger wouldn't be me. Because they cannot afford to lose an asset like me, the face of the family. As I got up from my seat, I glanced at Evelyn. She was still absorbed in her phone, pretending not to notice the exchange. But I knew she heard every word. I already knew the reason why she was like this, why she always was on her phone. The children who would be able to bear the pressure would give up. They would both lose their motivation in life and their desire for the attention of their parents. Evelyn wasn't always like this. She used to be quiet and obedient, always striving to meet the high expectations set by our parents. But there came a moment when she could no longer keep up. The pressure became too much and she broke. She started acting carefree and nonchalant about everything, a mask to hide her pain. Yet, I knew how much she cried during those nights when she thought no one could hear her. And now, she was like this, distant, sarcastic, and seemingly indifferent. It was truly heartbreaking to see her change so much, to see the light in her eyes dim. With a heavy heart, I made my way to the front door, where my fencing instructor was waiting, Master Alfred. There was no official title of Master for Alfred, but I liked to call him that. He had taught me many things, not just about fencing but about life and resilience. He was the reason I could still find the strength to endure. "Ready, Bruce?" he asked, his voice as steady and unwavering as always. "Yes, Master Alfred," I replied, feeling a sense of comfort in the routine, in the familiarity of his presence. We moved to the practice area in the backyard, where the training equipment was already set up. Master Alfred began with the usual drills, his sharp eyes catching every mistake, every hesitation. But he also had a way of pushing me just enough to help me improve without breaking me. "Bruce, you know what?" While we were training, Master Alfred suddenly asked. "What is it, Master?" I responded, focusing on my stance. "If you had lived in medieval times, you would have been one of the strongest warriors. Your skill with the sword is just that good." Hearing this, I remembered a certain sensation. The sword in my hand had always seemed to become an extension of my body, as if it was a part of me. Whenever I held the weapon, it felt like I changed. It was as if I was born to wield it, as if, in another life, I might have been a knight or a warrior. But then reality hit me. In the modern world, what meaning did the sword have? Even if I were the fencing world champion, it wouldn't change the fact that the world no longer values such skills. There was no place for swordsmen in a world dominated by technology and modern warfare. Master Alfred seemed to sense my thoughts. The world may have changed, Bruce, but the discipline, the focus, the strength you gain from fencing, those are timeless. They shape who you are, not just as a fencer, but as a person. I nodded, trying to absorb his words. I understand, Master. It just feels, I don't know, pointless sometimes. Nothing you do with dedication and passion is ever pointless, he said firmly. You may not be fighting dragons or defending castles, but you're building something just as important, character, resilience. And Bruce, you may have already realized it by now. No matter how, no matter what happens, never forget what is right, and never move away from the path of righteousness. Even if you don't want to do it, do the right thing. That is what makes the true warrior. Suddenly, I returned to the real world, and with all the memories returning, I realized what happened. I am Bruce, a high schooler, a web novel addict, and the world fencing champion. That is who I am. Just as I remembered who I was within my core, I saw something, a shining star, and then I heard Master's voice. That is peculiar. You have already formed your first star. Congratulations on becoming a one-stage awakened. You are a proper awakened from now on. I opened my eyes, feeling a profound sense of clarity and understanding. The memories of my past life, the lessons learned, and the experiences endured, all of it had converged into this moment, guiding me to this newfound power. I was no longer just Lucavion. I was Bruce too at the same time. Chapter 37. Devourer of Stars. In the outside world, the old man observed the boy intently. He watched as a palpable change came over the boy's body. The mana that covered him pulsed with a new vigor, the air around him shimmering with energy. The old man's eyes widened in realization. He has entered the state of perfect selflessness, the old man thought, marveling at the sight before him. It was a state where one forgets themselves for a moment and enters an enlightenment. A state that almost no awakened could attain in their lives. Yet this boy was doing it the first moment he came into contact with mana. The boy's body glowed with an ethereal light, his expression serene and detached from the physical world. The old man could see the mana flowing effortlessly through his meridians, intertwining with the boy's own energy in perfect harmony. This was not a simple achievement. It was a testament to the boy's incredible potential. The old man watched, feeling a mixture of awe and pride. He knew the boy was undergoing a profound transformation, one that would set the course for his future. The perfect selflessness state was fleeting, but the enlightenment gained from it could last a lifetime. He himself had attained this state only once, and that made him become one of the strongest in his own generation. Then what would happen to this boy, the one who had the physique of the stars? Maybe because of his reversed meridians, things would become harder with his path being different. But did it matter? It did not. At the end of the day, this boy had only one path to take to move forward. What a peculiar kid indeed. It seemed this kid deserved the right to bear the title of his disciple, and he made the right choice to teach him his own mana accumulation art. That is peculiar. You have already formed your first star. Congratulations on becoming a one-stage awakened. You are a proper awakened from now on. The moment I found my new memories, a weird feeling enveloped me. A feeling of energy right inside my chest. And then with some other questions. Master, I began, my voice steady but filled with curiosity. What does it mean that I formed the first star? What is that supposed to mean? The old man smiled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Why do you think I pushed my mana into your core? To make me feel the mana? I replied, unsure if that was the entire answer. Master nodded. That was partially the case, but there is something more to it. Tell me, what mana accumulation art were you using when you were trying to accumulate mana? The moment he asked this question to me, my eyes widened. I always felt like something was missing when my master told me to imagine a river flowing, even after I had cleared the blockage in my head. Why would he request me to do the same thing? After all, wasn't that for the sake of teaching me? If that was the case, why did I not do what I was doing, as mana accumulation is different from simple meditation? I hesitated, realizing the truth. None, I admitted. I wasn't using any type of mana accumulation art. I was just imagining things in my mind. Master's smile widened. Exactly. You weren't using any formal technique. You were relying purely on your imagination and willpower. Do you know why? As Master asked, I stopped thinking. I realized that the moment my master pushed his mana into my body, I felt a peculiar feeling. It was as if the starlight was entering my body. I was not able to think about it too much since it was not something that I understood, but now that I had formed a star, maybe it is because that was how the mana accumulation art that you are teaching me works. Master smiled at this. That is correct, but also incorrect at the same time. I looked at him, confused. What do you mean, Master? He sat down, motioning for me to do the same. What do you know about the cultivation of the mana core or mana accumulation arts? I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. From what I've read and been told, mana accumulation arts are techniques used to gather and refine mana into a core within the body. This core acts as a reservoir of mana, which can be used to enhance physical abilities, cast spells, or perform other feats. The process involves specific breathing techniques, visualization methods, and sometimes even physical exercises to help gather and control the mana. Master nodded, listening intently. That is the general understanding, yes. But there is more to it than just following a technique. For instance, how do you think all those techniques were formed? The ones that are passed down as legacies. As the bloodlines? I paused, thinking about his question. It's not clearly known where these accumulation arts came from. Many say our ancestors were blessed by the gods, and the gods sent these techniques to them for the sake of their survival. After all, humanity was a servant to other races at that time. Master laughed heartily at the mention of gods. Out of all the answers, the one you gave is one of the most cliched ones. I looked at him, puzzled. What do you mean, Master? He shook his head, still smiling. Even if there were gods, do you think they would give humanity such a clear indication of their existence? The idea that gods bestowed these techniques is a comforting story, one that has been told for generations to give people hope and a sense of divine purpose. I furrowed my brow, trying to understand. So, if not the gods, then who or what created these techniques? Humans, Master replied simply. Our ancestors were not handed these techniques on a silver platter. They discovered and developed them through trial and error, through observation and understanding of the natural world and the flow of mana. The techniques evolved over time, passed down and refined through generations. The true origin of these arts lies in the resilience and ingenuity of humanity itself. Hearing this made sense. If it was the previous me, I may not have been able to understand what he meant. But now I knew what he implied. Just like how evolution worked, the same could be said for the humans of this world. The ones that are stronger than others will live, and the weaker ones will die. In this case, slowly, by clipping the weaker links, humanity would most likely be able to evolve their mana arts at the same time as well. So, the techniques are a result of human effort and understanding, not divine intervention. Precisely, Master said. And that is why the mind is so important. Our ancestors had to use their minds to understand and harness the power of mana. The techniques they developed were born from their experiences, their observations, and their relentless pursuit of mastery. He paused, his gaze intense. So, why do you think we would not be able to do the same thing? The moment he said this, I started to understand what he was trying to come at. The mana accumulation art that you have taught me. Was it something that you have developed on your own? I stared at him, a mix of admiration and curiosity in my eyes. You developed it yourself? Indeed, he replied. Just like you, I was also someone who had a hard time fitting into the world. In this world where the nobles control mana arts and legacies, I myself was someone without any special origins. But I improved myself without relying on anyone. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. I was not born into a noble family, nor was I given access to powerful techniques. I had to rely on my own ingenuity and perseverance. Everyone looked down on me all the time, always stepping on me. Yet, at the end of the day, I surpassed every one of them on my own. At the end of his words, there was a weird expression in his eyes. Something that looked childish, the eyes of a prideful. I could not say anything for a while, but then I managed to ask, "What is the name of the technique that you have taught me then?" The moment I asked him, his smirk widened. "Devourer of Stars. That is the name of the mana accumulation art you are going to be using from now on." Chapter 38. Devourer of Stars 2. Devourer of the Stars. I have heard the name for the first time. It was not mentioned in the novel, nor was it mentioned in any of the records or libraries. It was something that was completely new to me, but at the same time, there was a sense of greatness in there. I felt a sense of greatness that was important. "Master," I began, curiosity brimming. "What grade is the mana accumulation art that I am using?" The old man shook his head, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "What do you know about the grading system? Do you know how the mana accumulation arts are even graded?" I hesitated, trying to recall what I knew. From what I understand, mana accumulation arts are graded based on their effectiveness and the power they can help a cultivator achieve. They are typically categorized as common, rare, unique, legendary, and mythic. The higher the grade, the more powerful and complex the technique. Master nodded thoughtfully. That is the general classification used by most people. However, this grading system is limited in many ways. It does not account for the unique compatibility between an individual and the technique, nor does it consider the potential for growth and adaptation. I frowned, trying to understand. So, how should we judge the value of a mana accumulation art? By its results, Master replied simply. The true measure of a technique lies in its ability to help the practitioner achieve their goals. The grading system is a guideline, but it is not absolute. What works best for one person might not work as well for another. You yourself are the perfect example of that, are you not? I nodded, starting to grasp the depth of his words. Master continued, "First and foremost, while in general higher grade arts mean they are stronger, the origin of grading stems from something humanoid. Can you see what it is?" I thought for a second. Then the realization hit me. The art of the grade is strictly linked to the nobility. In this world, the higher the art you practice, if it is a legacy, that would mean the higher rank you are in noble circles. Master smiled, pleased with my deduction. Exactly. The grading system is intertwined with the nobility. It is a hierarchy that reflects the social structure of our world. The higher the grade of the mana accumulation art, the higher the noble rank associated with it. This is how it typically goes, as you may already remember. Rare barons, unique viscounts, epic dukedom families/counties, legendary royal families, country leaders, special practitioners, mythic, literal myths, heroes of the past, gods. I absorbed the information, understanding the broader implications. So, the grading system isn't just about the power of the technique but also about maintaining social and political structures. Precisely, Master said. The nobility uses these techniques to solidify their power and status. However, this does not mean a lower-grade technique cannot surpass a higher-grade one in the right hands. The true potential of any technique lies in the practitioner. I understood what Master was coming at. So you mean the art that I am going to be practicing cannot be classified as, in essence, it has not been recognized by any nobility. Heh! You are good at picking up between the lines, Master replied, a smirk playing on his lips. Especially considering your special case, the grading of the arts will not be important at all. You need to fit the art to yourself, as you cannot practice any art just as it is given to you. Hearing this, I had a question. Then how did you teach me? How was I able to form the first star so quickly? The old man smiled. You haven't completely finished it yet. I looked at him, puzzled. What do you mean, Master? You'll see soon enough, he replied. Now, I want you to draw mana from your core and circulate it. Nodding, I focused on my core, feeling the star within. I began to draw mana from it, attempting to circulate the energy through my meridians. But as the mana started to flow, A searing pain shot through my body. "A arc!" I gasped, my vision blurring as the pain intensified. My muscles spasmed, and I fell to the ground, convulsing. "Focus, Lucavion." Master's voice cut through the haze of pain, but it was barely enough to keep me conscious. "Do not let the pain control you. Control the mana." I tried to focus, tried to push through the agony, but it felt like my entire body was on fire. The mana, which had initially felt empowering, now felt like it was tearing me apart from the inside. My mind raced, struggling to grasp onto anything that could help me control the torrent of energy. "Remember, the mind commands the mana," Master shouted, his voice a beacon of guidance amidst the chaos. "You are in control." With every ounce of willpower I had left, I focused on calming my mind. I visualized the starlight, trying to direct its flow more gently through my meridians. Slowly, the pain began to subside, replaced by a steady warmth. My muscles relaxed, and the convulsions ceased. Gasping for breath, I opened my eyes and looked up at Master. He was watching me closely, a mixture of concern and approval in his eyes. "Good," he said, his voice softer now. "You managed to regain control. That was the first real test of your willpower and your ability to command the mana." I nodded weakly, still feeling the residual pain. "Why did it hurt so much? Why do you think?" he asked. "It is because, while I had used my mana to guide you, when you were drawing your mana into your core, you did rather an unorthodox thing." I looked at him, puzzled. "What do you mean, Master?" He sighed, his expression growing serious. "Your meridians are reversed and messed up. The mana that you are going to use will be different. Imagine if the whole world is using mana that constantly rotates to the right. The mana you need to use is something that rotates to the left. But there is no mana that naturally turns left." My eyes widened as the implications sank in. "So, my meridians need to change?" "Exactly," Master replied. "You need to train using your mana so that your meridians adapt to the unique flow of energy you require. Right now, your mana is going berserk in your meridians, and that is what is causing you such pain." I sat up straighter, trying to process this new information. "So, how do I make my meridians adapt?" Master's expression softened slightly. "It will take time and effort. You must continue to draw mana, circulate it through your meridians, and endure the pain. With each attempt, your meridians will gradually adapt to the new flow of energy." He paused, looking at me with a mixture of concern and determination. "This is not an easy path, Lucavion. The pain will be intense, and the process will be grueling. But if you can endure it, you will emerge far stronger than anyone who follows a conventional path." I nodded, a newfound resolve filling me. If the pain is what I need to endure for the sake of getting stronger, that is fine with me. Since no physical pain can amount to the pain felt deep in the heart. "I understand, Master. I am willing to endure the pain and the challenges. I will do whatever it takes." "You brat." Everyone says such things with a moment of motivation. "Come at me with results." His words were harsh, but I could see the intention behind them. He was pushing me, challenging me to go beyond mere words and show my resolve through action. Also, this old man. He was smiling so much for it to look scolding. At night, I was lying on my bed, but no sleep entered my head. I did it, Garrett, Mateo, Felix, Elias. The faces of those guys did not leave my head at all. For some reason, I was feeling a little different. "I did it, Clara." I could not help but smile a little. "I wish you were here to see this. To think that I had such a physique. It was unbelievable. The amounts of things that I had learned in just one day. It was utterly nonsense." Bruce and Lucavion. Who was I? That question that I had asked myself. It was now finally answered. Bruce, the part of me that remembered the novel-shattered innocence and the world outside this one. The one who was forced to understand the complexities of human nature and the weight of expectations. Maybe that was why I felt this connected to Alara, the protagonist of the novel. While she was flawed and her path was filled with countless different cliches, her situation was similar to the one I had as Bruce. A prodigal child who was forced to train to be the best at everything. a child who could not show any weakness. That was what Bruce was. On the other hand, Lucavion, the noble son cast aside by his family, struggles to find his place and prove his worth in a world that seems to conspire against him. Together, they formed who I am now, a blend of experiences, memories, and realizations that had shaped me into someone who could navigate the harsh realities of both worlds. As I lay there, reflecting on everything, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. The pieces of my life were starting to come together, forming a clearer picture of my path forward. From the moment that the memories of my life as Bruce returned, I was feeling an itch on my hand. Sword. I need to put my hands on a sword. My hands were itching to hold a sword. Chapter 39. The Sword. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a rough shake. My eyes fluttered open, and I saw Sergeant Lyra standing over me. Her expression was stern, and her eyes bore into mine with an intensity that left no room for hesitation. "Get up, Lucavion," she said sharply. "We've got a busy day ahead." I groaned and forced myself to sit up, my body still aching from the previous day's training. The remnants of my pain from the mana circulation exercise lingered, but I pushed through it, determined to prove myself to my new unit. We gathered for breakfast, a meager meal that barely filled our stomachs. The tension in the air was palpable, the silence heavy with unspoken thoughts. I could feel the eyes of my comrades on me, their judgment and disdain clear. After we finished eating, Sergeant Lyra called us to our attention and began to brief us on our location and the latest developments on the battlefield. "Listen up, everyone," she began, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "With the recent changes in the enemy's tactics, the battlefield has become more dangerous. The Arcanes Knights have shown a new level of aggression and coordination. We've lost many good soldiers, and we need to be prepared for anything." She paused, her gaze sweeping over us. "Thankfully, more and more supplies of soldiers are coming from the criminals. It's a necessary measure to bolster our ranks and ensure we can hold the line." As she said this, I felt the weight of their stares shift to me. The reminder of my status as a criminal among them was a bitter pill to swallow. I kept my head high, refusing to let their disdain affect me. Lyra continued, "Our current position is on the Eastern Front, near the edge of the Valerius Plains. The enemy has been pushing hard in this area, and it's up to us to hold them back. Stay vigilant, follow orders, and work together. We can't afford any mistakes." The briefing ended, and we were dismissed to prepare for our duties. As I gathered my gear, I felt a presence beside me. It was Roderick, his expression still one of contempt. "Just remember, noble scum," he sneered, "we're watching you. Don't think for a second that you're one of us." I met his gaze steadily, my resolve unwavering. After coming to terms with myself and my feelings, I felt a lot more confident for some reason. Maybe it was because I accepted myself or not. I felt like other people's opinions no longer held much importance to me. "I don't need your approval. I'll prove myself through my actions." He scoffed and walked away, leaving me to finish my preparations. I tightened the straps on my armor and checked my weapons, ensuring everything was in place. The morning sun had just begun to rise as we moved out to our positions. The air was crisp, the sounds of the camp bustling with activity. I fell in line with the others, my mind focused on the task ahead. As we marched, I couldn't help but feel a little different knowing that my body had changed. The moment that I became an awakened after forming the first star, I felt like I became stronger compared to how I was before. My body felt stronger, lighter, and faster. Just as Master and Father said, the higher rank one attained while cultivating one's core, it would also integrate into one's own body. Yet, it is not complete. Maybe because my meridians had yet to adapt completely, I felt like I had yet to reach the complete strength I would have attained. But for now, my immediate goal was survival and proving myself to this new unit. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was ready to face them head-on. The battlefield stretched out before us, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of war. The landscape was scarred with craters and debris, the remnants of countless battles. We took our positions, the tension in the air palpable. As the day wore on, the enemy made their move. The sound of clashing steel and the cries of the wounded filled the air once more. I tightened my grip on my spear, my mind focused on the battle ahead. "Hold the line!" Lyra's voice rang out, a command that galvanized us into action. "Don't let them break through." The Arcanes soldiers advanced with relentless ferocity, their ranks disciplined and determined. I fell into formation with my unit, my spear at the ready. The first wave hit us hard, the clash of weapons echoing across the battlefield. Clank! I parried a strike from an enemy soldier, countering with a swift thrust of my own. My spear found its mark, and the soldier crumpled to the ground. Another took his place almost immediately, and the cycle continued. The enemy pushed forward relentlessly, their numbers seeming endless. I fought with everything I had, each movement a testament to my training and determination. The battlefield became a blur of motion and noise, the chaos overwhelming. Slash! An enemy soldier lunged at me with an axe, and I barely managed to deflect the blow. My spear struck out instinctively, piercing his side. Blood splattered across my face, mixing with the sweat and grime of battle. Clank! Another soldier attacked from my left, and I spun to meet him. Our weapons clashed, the impact jarring my arms. I twisted my spear, catching him off balance, and drove the blade into his chest. The fighting was brutal, each moment a struggle for survival. I could see my comrades around me, their faces grim and determined as they fought to hold the line. The enemy was relentless, their attacks fierce and coordinated. I faced countless different enemies, each one a unique challenge. Some were brute force warriors, relying on sheer strength to overwhelm their opponents. Each one pushed me to my limits, and I fought back with everything I had. Thud! Just at this second, suddenly, someone appeared right before me with a strike. Swoosh! A slightly long sword slashed across my face. The pain was immediate and sharp. Blood dripped down my cheek, and I staggered back, barely able to react in time. The soldier before me was strong and fast. He moved with a speed and precision that made it impossible for me to use the distance of my spear effectively. His technique was excellent, each strike precise and powerful, leaving me no room to breathe. I tried to parry his blows, but he was relentless, his sword a blur of motion. He closed the distance between us effortlessly, his movements fluid and controlled. Each time I attempted to create space, he was already there, his sword cutting through the air with deadly intent. Our weapons clashed repeatedly, the sound of steel ringing in my ears. I struggled to keep up, my spear feeling heavy and unwieldy in my hands. The difference in our skill levels was evident, and I found myself on the defensive, barely able to fend off his attacks. Clank! I managed to block one of his strikes, but he quickly followed up with a swift kick to my chest, sending me sprawling backward. Thud! And with a kick, he completely removed my balance. I hit the ground hard, the impact jarring my already aching body. Dazed, I tried to push myself up, but the soldier was already upon me. His sword flashed, and I barely raised my spear in time to deflect the blow. He was relentless, his attacks coming faster and harder, each one pushing me closer to the edge. Swoosh! The soldier's blade cut across my chest, the pain searing through me. I cried out, the force of the strike knocking the wind out of me. He followed up with another kick, this time to my side, sending me crashing to the ground once more. Again. Once again, there is someone strong like him. My head spun from the impact, my vision blurring as I struggled to stay conscious. The world around me seemed to tilt and spin, the sounds of battle fading into the background. The pain was there, and I could feel my strength slipping away. So what? I thought, forcing myself to open my eyes. If I was going to fall before someone like this random soldier, how was I going to get my revenge? If this is all I amount, how dare I think of facing Night of the Wind? And the moment I did, I saw something flying before me, something that would be rarely seen on the battlefield. A long and thin weapon. Clank! The weapon flew into the sky and fell right before me, with it stabbed on the ground. It was a long, thin sword and estoc. At that moment, The world seemed to slow, as if time had stopped. In that split second, it was only me and the sword. No noise, no sounds of swords clashing, no wind blowing, nothing. Only the sword. From the sword's small surface, I saw the reflection of myself. I was smiling. Chapter 40. The Sword. 2. When you are about to sleep after spending your day, what do you think? Do you think that you have spent your day getting better at what you are doing? Or would you think that you are a failure and you should have tried better? Everyone would have a different thought, wouldn't they? Isn't this the beauty of being a human? We are all different. But at the same time, are we that different? Some of us are failures, but have we not tried our best? From the sword's small surface, I saw the reflection of myself. I was smiling. The sight of my own determined, defiant grin sparked something deep within me. The reflection seemed to mock my weakness, but also challenged me to rise above it. Is this my limit? Is this where I fall? The S-Dock gleamed with an almost otherworldly light, drawing me in. I could feel its presence, its call. It was as if the weapon was waiting for me, urging me to take hold and fight back. The weapon that I had held. In the modern world, the weapon was only used for the sake of competing. I was a fencer, the world champion. I remembered the thrill of the competition, the rush of adrenaline as I faced my opponents, each match a test of skill, strategy, and endurance. In those moments, my master's words echoed in my mind. Bruce, remember this. The true essence of fencing is not just about winning or losing. It's about understanding yourself and your limits and pushing beyond them. It's about the dance between you and your opponent, the silent conversation held through each parry and thrust. The S-Dock was not just a weapon. It was an extension of my will, a symbol of my determination to overcome any obstacle. In the modern world, it has been a tool for sport, for proving my skill and discipline. But here, in this brutal reality, it was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I could still hear my master's voice, calm and steady. Every time you take up the sword, you are not just fighting an opponent. You are fighting your own doubts, your own fears. You must learn to trust yourself, to trust the blade. It will guide you if you let it. As I lay there, reflecting on his words, I felt a renewed sense. Is this my limit? Is this where I fall? I asked myself once more, the question lingering in the air. The answer was clear. No, this was not my limit. This was just another challenge, another opponent to face. And like all the others, I would confront it head-on. I would not escape. I reached for the S-Dock, feeling its weight in my hand, its balance perfect and reassuring. It was more than just a weapon. It was a reminder of who I was, of the strength and resilience that had brought me this far. As my fingers wrapped around the hilt, a strange sensation washed over me. The weight of the weapon, which should have felt unfamiliar as this was the first time I was holding it, did not. Instead, it felt like an extension of my own body, as if the blade and I were one. The world around me seemed to fade, the sounds of battle growing distant. It was just me and the S-Dock. My grip tightened, and a surge of energy coursed through me, merging with the blade. It was a sensation, unlike anything I had ever felt before, a connection that transcended the physical. I rose to my feet, the pain and fatigue momentarily forgotten. The soldier who had bested me moments ago was advancing again, his eyes filled with confidence. But now, I felt a newfound resolve, a fire burning within me. That is right. I can see your sword. In my eyes, everything was clearly laid bare. Swoosh! He swung his sword, but this time I was ready. Clank! I parried his strike with ease, the S-Dock moving with a fluidity that matched my thoughts. Stab! The soldier's eyes widened in surprise, and I seized the moment, countering with a swift thrust that caught him off guard. The S-Dock pierced through his defenses, finding its mark with precision. Arg! The soldier gasped, blood spilling from the wound, and he fell to the ground, defeated. The essence of combat, I muttered. This was the real essence of combat. This was how it meant to be a swordsman. It was not about showing off as a competition. Being a swordsman meant something different. You either cut your enemy, or you get cut down. That is what it is meant to be. If that is the case, I am going to cut anyone who shows in my path. Clank! I parried another strike that had just come from my right side. I turned to face my new opponent and saw another soldier looking at me, holding a spear. Ha ha ha, how ironic! I laughed, feeling the irony of the situation. Just a minute before, I was the one holding the spear, and the enemy was holding a sword. But now it was completely reversed. I was the one holding the sword, and the enemy was the one holding the spear. Swoosh! Clank! The soldier's eyes narrowed, sensing my confidence. He lunged at me with the spear, aiming for my chest. I sidestepped, the estoc moving effortlessly to deflect the attack. The spear's point missed me by a hair, and I countered with a quick, precise thrust. Clank! The spear clashed with my estoc, the force of the impact reverberating through my arms. The soldier was skilled, his movements fast and deliberate. He attacked again, thrusting the spear with deadly accuracy. But I could see through his moves, anticipating his strikes. Swoosh! The spear came at me again, but I twisted my body, dodging the attack and moving inside his guard. My estoc flashed, cutting through the air with lethal precision. The soldier tried to block, but he was too slow. My blade sliced across his arm, forcing him to drop the spear. Arg! He cried, clutching his wounded arm. I didn't hesitate. With a swift motion, I brought the estoc down, aiming for his heart. The blade pierced through his chest, and he collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Breathing heavily, I looked around the battlefield. The sounds of clashing weapons and cries of pain filled the air, but I felt a strange calmness. The estoc in my hand was an extension of myself, a symbol of my determination and resolve. That is right, I muttered to myself. No matter who stands in my way, I will cut them down. The battle raged on for hours, each moment a test of endurance and willpower. As the sun began to set, the fighting finally subsided. The enemy retreated, leaving the battlefield littered with the fallen. The adrenaline coursing through my veins gradually faded, replaced by a deep exhaustion. We gathered the wounded and regrouped, the weight of the day's violence heavy on our shoulders. Despite the fatigue, a sense of accomplishment filled me. I had proven myself today, not just to my comrades but to myself. As the night descended, I made my way back to our training location. The camp was quiet, the soldiers resting and tending to their wounds. I felt a strange mix of relief and anticipation as I approached Master's tent. Upon reaching the tent, I found Master sitting outside, meditating. His eyes were closed, his breathing steady and calm. The sight of him brought a sense of peace, a reminder of the path I had chosen. Before I could speak, Master suddenly spoke, his voice breaking the silence. It seems you have found something. I stopped, surprised by his words. How did you know, Master? He opened his eyes, looking at me with a piercing gaze. It reeks from your body. Reeks? I repeated, puzzled. It reeks, he said again, his tone sharper. You brat. Just because you fought some weak soldiers, do you think killing others is fun? I flinched at his words, the harshness of his tone cutting through me. No, Master, I don't think it's fun. But I felt a connection with the sword, a sense of purpose in the fight. Master's gaze remained stern. A sense of purpose, you say? And what is that purpose? To kill? To enjoy the thrill of battle? His words hit right through my heart, as because they were right. Enjoying the thrill of the battle. That is right. One part of me who was deprived of the battle was yearning for it. Bruce, when I was training to be a fencer on Earth, there was always something missing inside. When I became the world champion, when I became the strongest youngster in the world, I did not feel satisfied at all. Rather, I felt empty. And now I was slowly realizing the reason why. It was because whenever I battled in the competition, there was something that was always missing. The thrill, the stakes, the real consequences of losing or winning. These were elements that competition could never fully replicate. In a tournament, the worst that could happen was losing a match. But here, on the battlefield, the stakes were life and death. Each fight held real, tangible consequences. As I stood there, reflecting on Master's words, I began to understand myself better. On Earth, the competitions, the medals, the titles, they were all hollow victories. The true essence of combat, the raw intensity and life-or-death stakes, had always been missing. That was why I felt empty even after reaching the pinnacle of my sport. The battlefield filled that void. It provided the adrenaline, the challenge, and the high stakes that had always eluded me. But I also knew that this realization came with a dangerous temptation. The thrill of the fight could easily lead to losing oneself in the violence, to becoming consumed by the desire for battle. "Brat," Master said, opening his eyes, "you are training for the sake of beating someone, don't you?" And then he stood up, his expression stern and unyielding. "With the way you are now, you won't be able to defeat him."
Hello everyone. We now have a Discord server. Join us for faster updates, discussions about your favorite novels, and exclusive Discord-only content. Don't miss out. See you there. Scan the QR code on the screen or enter any of the displayed links into your browser to join our Discord.